Good evening, everyone. Minute Havoc here, getting ready to do my first real YouTube video focused on the Trials of Reckoning for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Trials of Reckoning is some of my favorite content in the game, and so I've decided to go ahead and actually invest in making some slides, and hopefully everyone enjoys this video. So let's kick things off. My first piece of advice is pretty generic for Trials of Reckoning, so if you're not familiar with these, one of the top pieces of advice I would recommend is to spend time where you can get lots of points. The most important thing to note is that the hard boss will probably give you more points than all of the hard levels combined, and so if you're targeting high scores, that's really where you want to be trying to eke out a couple extra points. The other thing I'd recommend is as you go through the individual stages, if you make it to say like the top 10 or 50 on a stage, there probably aren't a whole lot of points left to gain in the grand scheme of things, and so you should probably move on to the next stage, and you can always revisit if you manage to snag like top 10 or 50 on all of the stages, but there's really not a lot of point in going from, say, number 5 to number 1 on any individual level if you're going for the overall total high score. Continuing on, this is a slide from the previous Trials of Reckoning. I want to walk through sort of how the points work here. Battles 1 is obviously just winning the battle. You get 1200 points. Overkills tends to cap at about 1000 points. This is based on the amount of damage over not just the bosses, but also the unit's total HP. So you want to get this as high as you can, right? Obviously this is a pretty big source of points. You can get 1000, and if you've got a big multiplier, right, we're looking at 2300, or almost 20% of the points here are coming from just the overkills number on this score here. Damage taken, I believe the max you can get here is about 400 points. Obviously you want to minimize the amount of damage your own units take. If you are preventing the boss from having any turns, that should be you should get pretty close to the max here. Specified units defeated. It's not always obvious which units these are. In general, what you want to do is look for the units on the board that feel like they're hard to get to and kill before the boss is dead. Those units that are out of the way are usually the ones it means when it means specified units defeated. In the case of this upcoming Trials, I believe this is going to be the Malboros. Number of actions is obviously the total number of actions you've used. You'll want to try to be as efficient as possible with no actions that are not directly contributing to point gain. Items used, this should always be 50 for you. There's really no need to use items on these maps. Attack resist weakness attacks. This is what this value is based on the attack type. So if the unit is weak to magic and you hit them with a magic attack, you get points here. Every time you attack on something that they have a weakness to, you get points. Elemental weakness is the same thing, except it's based on the element rather than the attack type. One thing that is really important to note here is if a unit isn't weak to an attack type or an element type, but you debuff them so that they are, then you can still get these bonus points. So you don't necessarily need to kill or attack a unit with something they are inherently weak to in order to build up these numbers. You can debuff them and then go after it. Things like Espers summons, which we'll talk about a little later, are a great way to help with that. KO/retreated units should always be 0 points for you. If you have units die, this will go negative, you will lose points. Longest chain is obviously your longest attack type chain. It's important to note that magic type damage does not chain for regular chains, so this value will only come from pierce, missile, slash, or strike damage. The elemental chain is obviously the longest elemental portion of the chain. Ideally, you'll be getting a big, nice long chain with both types covered, and lots of points here. And then this is obviously the multiplier that you get from all of the unit and vision card bonuses you have. The next thing we're going to talk about a little bit is AP management. This is a key part of the trials. You only have so many turns, and you tend to want to have your guys firing on all cylinders for the majority of the fight, which means you have very limited turns to actually build AP. So you want to keep an eye out for really good TMRs, such as Illusory Bell from Ziza, obviously one of the best AP TMRs in the game, Aldoa's Apron, Exotic Pareo from the recent Summer Kilfei unit is also excellent. Kaleido Moon off of Medina is an excellent unit for increasing, or excellent TMR for increasing acquired AP up. Sacred Step and Glinting Armor are also high TP TMRs, and therefore they will boost your AP a decent chunk while also helping in a variety of ways for the fight. You also want to check your passives. Look for anyone who gets initial AP up, acquired AP up. Those can be very helpful if you need just a few more bits of AP to get through the fight. The next piece of advice I'll give you is that movement is key. So you want to look for abilities that help you get around the board. Some of the boards are going to be very, very long, or have lots of height, things like that that'll get in the way of you trying to get where you want to go. So look for abilities like Shikuchi passive, Jump +1 passives, Nimble Movement, Poison Mist, Earthrending Pain, anything that gets you like a teleportation ability that you can use mid-battle, or a passive that increases your move or jump, can be really clutch. Also look for TMRs that can help with this. Things like the Bell Adorned Ribbon, the Dragoon Helmet, the Kitty Hood, Saga Gauntlet. These can help you move around the board. They give you alternate abilities you can use. Consider them if you end up needing them. If it can save you several turns on the board, that can be the difference between top 10 or top 100 on a score. I'm also going to recommend always check your Espers. It's only 50 Visior to respec them. It's worthwhile if you can get things set up a little bit better for your units. Typically, you're going to want to look for killers or eaters and elements. So if you've got a thunder guy, you want to get thunder attack, etc. on him. Sometimes more damage isn't better is one thing to keep in mind. Espers are actually very tunable, right? Drop a damage note off a guy, your guy's suddenly doing a little bit less damage. Especially when you're looking to overkill and you want to get as close to 0 HP before you strike the final blow to a boss. Tweaking your Espers a little is a great way to lower your damage just a little bit if you need to. Consider summoning. So Espers have some really great effects that aren't used much in this game because it takes so long to get your Esper gauge up. You will typically have by the end of the fight, or by the end of the boss fight at least, your Esper gauge full. And so that's a great opportunity to get an imperil across the board on all units, right? We were talking earlier about the elemental weakness attacks. Espers can give you basically that on any element you want, allowing you to get big damage while simultaneously getting some weakness attacks that you might not normally have gotten. Looking at these specific stages, we're going to talk about the hard boss here a little bit and what we're looking at on him. As we can see, he has 15 defense, 5 spirit, so in theory you're going to be better off with magic-based attacks, but for the most part it's probably a wash. He's weak to earth element. If you'll notice, none of the units that are bonus units are actually earth element here, so this is actually interesting. It basically means that element wise you're pretty wide open for this boss. You're going to want to be dealing either slash damage, actually you're going to want to be dealing slash damage or missile damage to him, or have some way of lowering pierce, strike, or magic on him. He is weak to slow. And if you look at his stuff down here, he does not appear to have anything that prevents you from steal time on him. So you should be able to slow him, you should be able to CT down, you should be able to agility down. All of those fun things should be viable strategies here. Looking at his skill list, you'll see that he can potentially paralyze your units. if he gets a chance to attack. Hopefully he won't because of slow or steal time. And he's got this, which I'm pretty sure he's going to use first turn, just like the Phoenix used for the re-raise. So you'll want to bring some sort of method for breaking barriers to deal with this. Continuing on, we'll see that there are several Tonberry units on the map. Those Tonberry units are weak to ice. They are weak to missile and magic. They are also humans. We've got Great Malboros, also weak to ice, missile, and magic. They are plants. We've got these Sentinel guys as well, humans. They are weak to wind, strike, and magic here. So you'll want to hit them with either wind magic or strike magic, ideally. Sorry, or wind strike. And if we look at the placement of the board, we'll see this is how the layout of the map's going to look. You're going to have your boss over here. Over here is going to be your cluster of human units that are weak to wind attacks. And then down here, I believe these are the Tonberries, and these two guys are the Malboros. You do not have to worry significantly about height on this map, which is interesting. It seems to be pretty uniform height all throughout. Everything is at 0 level. So let's talk about the first bonus unit, Cloud. Cloud, some things you want to keep in mind if you're looking at using him is that he has both slash and missile based damage. This can be good depending on the map. There might be a unit somewhere that is weak to lightning missile damage, in which case Cloud could sub-ranger and do some interesting stuff for you. That also can increase his range significantly. He has this 3-hit slash chaining move, which is worth considering. He has range and movement passives. He has slash resist down, so you can break someone who is not inherently weak to slash. He has a TMR that can help with AP. He has an AP crit buff, and he has AP drain, depending on his sub-job. So you have lots of different ways to get AP with him, besides just loading him up with a standard TMR. And with his limit burst, he can break physical barriers, which is potentially really useful if he is going to be part of your comp. Tifa is our only extra large unit, and so you're probably going to want to end up using her. She has an AP passive, which can be helpful. She has a unique mechanic that allows her to get elemental regular attacks. I don't know how useful this will be, but one of the reasons this is great is it means that she could potentially be building AP while using elemental attacks, which no other units in the game really can do. She has Shukuchi for a passive. She's got 2 and 4 hit chaining moves, which gives her lots of abilities and potential for big overkill damage if you can find ways to max this. She can also break physical barriers. For some of the regular maps, she has a variety of teleport moves at her disposal, and she has both strike and slash based damage in her toolkit. This gives you some flexibility if you encounter any enemies where you want to use slash and wind on them, or if for some reason you can't get both element and attack type, maybe you can match attack type with Tifa. Could be promising. Gareth has a couple of things that are interesting here. It looks like I have a typo here. I included the slow counter in here twice. So she's got a slow counter. I don't know how useful that will be, but I do know that slow counter tends to be better than slow in terms of success rate at landing. But the low slow resistance that the Scorpion has may mean that that's a wash and you can just cast slow. She can hand out AP, which means she's never going to waste a turn because she can always give someone who needs to do more damage a little bit of extra AP. She can lower water resistance, which is critical for elemental resistance attacks potentially. And she has both magic and slash damage. So With the slash damage, she could potentially be contributing to chains. She has haste, which she can give to a primary damage dealer slash chainer, and she has quicken. I will caution you about quicken. You probably don't want to be relying on it too much. In general, it basically means that you're turning one move into two moves, and so you're losing points. So you really only want to do this if that extra move you're going to spend is going to be offset by the extra points you're going to earn on that move. Barrett here is another large bonus unit. He has both range passives and range buffs, helping him to hit units that are further away that might be harder to reach. He can do 3-hit chaining. He has an AP buff. He has Focus Shot, which gives you both a defense break for doing more physical damage with the slow built in. That could be really valuable as something that maybe you pop Scorpion Sentinel with early on in the fight. Land that slow, get the defense break on, and then as long as he doesn't get 3 more turns, that will last the rest of the fight for you. And as we saw earlier, the Scorpion Sentinel is actually weak to missile, so that could be a very sort of low damage move that you pop onto Scorpion Sentinel, do just like a little bit of initial damage, get an attack weakness attack in, and land that defense break and a slow, and set your units up to start wailing on him. He has Beast Killer from his Gunner subjob, which could be interesting on some maps. Keep an eye on that, I would say, just in case you have a need to kill some beasts with him. And then he has both missile and strike damage, which makes him very flexible, as well as a teleport move on his Pugilist subjob in Shifting Strike, so he can really get around the board quickly if he needs to, between teleporting and having huge range on his shooting attacks. Gargas has some interesting abilities as well that we'll talk about. He has an AoE resistance down if you take him all the way to 120, which is potentially really big if you're hitting with AoE attacks for your chain. This can add significant damage. I don't know. One of the things I don't know is if this is enough to give you the weakness attacks bonus, like slash resist down or strike resist down would. I think it's probably worth testing to figure that out, but this is potentially a very strong ability that he gets at 120. He has movement buffs, he has a teleport move, he has Bursting Light, and I mentioned Bursting Light specifically here because unlike some other moves, it has some unique targeting capabilities and a unique shape that can be very useful and is worth keeping in mind if you're trying to kill some stuff. He has both D-Protect and D-Shell to give you more damage onto the unit. He has Imperil, which lowers all resistance types. This means on someone like the Scorpion Sentinel, who is only weak to Earth element, you can make him weak to all elements, and now everyone hitting him is getting weakness attacks, which could be a huge opportunity for extra points. He also has an agility buff he can hand out, which is different from haste and potentially very valuable for speeding up some of your guys. He could be a great supporter for your chainers against the Scorpion Sentinel. Lastwell is not getting his EX before this comes out, which is a little unfortunate, but I would keep an eye out for this coming out next week, mid-trials, and that could shake up the best strategies to use here. I'm not convinced he's super worth it as is, but maybe if he gets his EX job next week, it will be a worthwhile option. Some things to consider is he does have a jump passive, he has ice resistance down, he has 2-hit chaining, he technically has a slow move on his samurai subjob, though you probably won't want to use that as you'll probably want him for the 2-hit chaining. He does have a movement move, so he has a ability, the Dragoon ability that allows him an extra movement and an extra jump, and he can do both slash and pierce damage. So I could see him potentially being useful for the maps and stuff, or for the normal and hard maps, but not necessarily for the boss unless he gets his EX job. Inglebert, there's not a lot to say here. He is getting his EX job. He has slash and strike damage. He has taunting blade, which gives him pretty huge range, but I'm having a hard time seeing how you're gonna really do a whole lot with Inglebert. Rain has both an AP passive that you want to take a look at. He has slash and magic damage that he can do, which is valuable, particularly since his magic damage. He has jamming thrust as an option, which gives him a huge range. He has 2 and 3 hit chaining options, 2 hit on his limit burst, and then 3 hit with soul prominence. He can fire resistance down, and he has the ability to slow the enemy. All of these could potentially be useful for various Trials of Reckoning content. Charlotte here has a movement passive, an AP passive. She has lightning resistance down. She actually chains with another unit that's a bonus unit in Cloud, which is pretty unique. She has slash and strike based damage options. She can do 2 hit strike chains. She has steal time, and she has an agility break. Obviously, depending on her sub job, she won't have all of these at once, but she's a pretty solid unit to take if you decide to go for the lightning slash chaining option on the boss, and she has potential value for some of the normal and hard maps. Aldoa has an AP passive. She has human killer options. She has a defense break, and she can absorb AP. But you're probably not gonna do wind slash damage. So I suspect this isn't the route you want to go here, but she is an option available to you. Yerma has a movement passive and AP passive. Depending on which sub job you take, she either has steal time or an agility break. She has single target resistance down, which again you'll want to take a look at the moves you're using for your chain, but this could be potentially big for enabling overkill. She can break barriers, and she has a human killer option as well. She seems much better than Aldoa and potentially more useful overall, including even potentially on the boss as a steal time option instead of Charlotte. Leychella does have a 3-hit chaining option. She does have magic and strike damage. She can decrease CT, but her elemental typing leaves me wondering where she really fits into this fight. Or not even just the fights, but the Trials of Reckoning as a whole. The one place I could potentially see her being really valuable is actually on the normal boss. Because on the normal boss, the wind-based units we talked about earlier are actually replaced with ice-based units. And so I don't know if rain will be enough, or if it might be better if you're targeting a high score on the normal boss to run Leychella here and have her clean up those units. All that being said, good luck to everyone. If you haven't targeted Trials high scores before and this is your first time doing it, really good luck to you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. My Discord is available off my Twitch page if you are interested in checking it out. I'm hoping to share some of my advice and tips in the general chat there. And I'd love to just chat strategy and compare scores, etc. with all of you throughout the next 2 weeks. Best of luck to everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.